مرحبا بكم. احنا معكم النهاردة داخل سفارة جمهورية الهند لدى جمهورية مصر العربية. لقائنا اليوم مع سعادة السفير أجيت كوبتي سفير جمهورية الهند. لو عايزين تعرفوا عن أبرز المحطات الدبلوماسية لسعادة السفير بالإضافة لمعلومات أكتر عن دولة الهند والصناعات الهندية، تابعونا وهذا اللقاء. كان بيسعدنا أن يكون في ضيافتنا اليوم سعادة سفير جمهورية الهند، سعادة السفير أجيت كوبتي سفير الهند بجمهورية مصر العربية. Your Excellency, please allow me to thank you so much for this interview.
It's a pleasure for me to be here.
At the beginning, for sure, we and all the Egyptians would like to know more about your diplomatic stations before coming to Egypt. So can you tell us more about it?
Okay, certainly. Well, I joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1991 and I learned Chinese as my foreign language. I served in Hong Kong and Beijing and then Bangladesh. Later I was in India and then I was in Germany, in Berlin as the Deputy Chief of Mission, and then back in India. And my last assignment was in Denmark as the ambassador. So I have come from Copenhagen to Cairo.
Learning the Chinese language, it was hard, a little bit difficult for you?
Yes, Chinese language is extremely difficult to learn because it is based on ideograms. It is not a phonetic based language, and one has to work extremely hard to memorize the ideograms. And there is no connection with Indian languages. So for Indians it is comparatively much easier to learn, say, a European language because the script is the same, since most Indians know English. And similarly, to learn, say, Arabic or Persian is also easier because many of the words are similar.
This is your the first Arabic country?
Yes.
This is Egypt.
That's right.
Okay, I will talk about Egypt, but in some more time, because now I would like to know more about India. So if you allowed me, I would like to know more about the geographic nature of India and the people, the Indian people. Can you tell us more?
Certainly. Well, India now is the most populous country in the world because last year we overtook China and we have about 1,430 million people. India itself is a subcontinent. So India's geography varies a great deal, and let me tell you a little bit. To the north we have the towering Himalayas. In fact, most of northern India, you have the Himalayas from the Karakoram, then going across to the Kumaon region, then you have Nepal, and then you have Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. So you have the towering mountain ranges of the Himalayas, and they effectively for thousands of years restricted or prevented any access from the north. Then when you come, a lot of rivers originate in the Himalayas and they flow both westwards and then down south and to the east. And many of the rivers which flow towards the east, they flow into the Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh. So we have the Indo-Gangetic plain where the ancient civilization was first established, and because there was water, there were rivers. So we have the plains and then also we have desert in Rajasthan. So to the western part of India we have large amount of desert, including in Gujarat, and then we have the coastline. We have almost 7,000 kilometers of sea coast both on the west and the east. And we have mountain ranges, but not as high as the Himalayas on the west and the east. And towards the eastern part of India, we again have, it's very hilly and mountainous, and we have very thick forests and jungles in the northeast. So India is very diverse in terms of geography. You have mountains, you have beaches, you have a lot of wildlife. You know, you would have heard of tigers and leopards, panthers, elephants, rhinoceros. So we have virtually everything in India.
With this diverse that Your Excellency talked about and the great populations that we already also talked about, how could you manage as an Indian Republic to have a big spot in industry worldwide?
Well, a lot of it is because of sustained efforts over the decades, because quite frankly, when India became independent in 1947, after 200 years of colonial rule, it had become, from one of the richest countries in the world, it had become one of the poorest. But I am very happy and proud to tell you that today India produces more steel than even the United States. We are the second largest producer of steel in the world. In most other areas of industrial capacity, whether it is production of aluminium, bauxite, cement, electricity, we are the second or the third largest producer in the world. In many food items, we are the largest or the second largest. For example, more than 20% of the milk in the world is produced in India. And we are the largest producer of rice, sugar, vegetables, fruits, etc. So you can see that even though our territory is comparatively limited, I mean, it's a very large country, but compared to our population, it is still a little limited. But we are not only able to feed ourselves, we are exporting a lot of agricultural products all over the world. But in most of the industrial sectors, we are in the first 2 or 3.
Tell us more about the important industries in India. What kind of industries that already have the big sector in Indian industrial world?
Well, there are many industrial sectors which we have developed. I just mentioned to you, like steel and cement, we are among the largest producers in the world. But specific industries, we are one of the largest producers of pharmaceuticals and medicines in the world. And we export to many countries, including to Egypt. We are now the 4th largest producer of automobiles in the world. We produce about 4 million automobiles every year. We are the largest producer of motorcycles in the world, largest exporter of motorcycles. So there is a lot of agricultural construction equipment that India makes. Similarly, in renewable energy, we are the 4th largest in the world now. We have a lot of capacity to make wind turbines, solar panels, etc. So engineering sector has also done well. So we are now trying to focus on new emerging sectors like electric vehicles, EVs, green hydrogen, battery storage, etc.
That's great, that's great. But talking about the industrial world and this new technology doesn't make us forget about the handcrafts that distinguish the Indian, let's say, the Indian people and the Indian history. So can you tell us also about, what can you tell us also about the handcrafts, Indian handicrafts?
Yes. See, like Egypt, India is a country where we have still kept up with the tradition of doing things by hand. Now, these traditions are disappearing in many parts of the world. In fact, they have disappeared from many parts of the world. But we have a very rich tradition which goes back thousands of years, and you would have seen the diverse items which are on display at India House, where we can do very elaborate and detailed carvings on many things, whether it's wood or metal, different types of metal, bronze, different types of alloy, silver. We do very intricate carving of silver. You can see similarly pottery.
And the fabrics also.
Also, say the textiles. The Indian women, they wear these beautiful saris and other costumes. So if you look at India, it's a very large country. If you look at, say, saris, there would be at least 30 to 40 types of saris. Silk, cotton, mix of silk and cotton, different types of weaves, different types of embroidery. So Indian culture is such that the more you go into detail, the more you will discover. So, and fortunately, we are keeping up with this tradition of handicrafts. We encourage our people, whether it is from the north, from Jammu and Kashmir, they do make beautiful carpets and papier-mâché things. To the south of India, where they do a lot of things, say with wood, or to the northeast, where they do things with bamboo.
That's right. Also, I would like to talk with Your Excellency about the tourism section. What can you tell us about the most important touristic attractions in India?
Thank you. Well, India has truly a lot to offer to the world. It is very, very difficult to explain in a short span of time, but let me try. As I said, we have the entire Himalayan range in the north, where people can do trekking, mountaineering, skiing, adventure sports. We have the mighty rivers like Ganges, where they can do river rafting. So there are a lot of adventure sports which people can do. Then we have a large number where people can see tigers. There are many, we have more than 1,600 tigers. There are separate tiger reserves where you
more
can
than
actually
1,600 kind of
tigers. We so we have, I think, about 30% of the world's tigers, and they are not kept in a zoo. Most of them are still moving around in the wild. So you can go in the thing. If you are lucky, you will be able to spot a tiger. There's no guarantee that you will see, but they take you in a jeep. It's protected, and if you are lucky, you will see the tiger with the cubs moving around in the jungle. In the eastern side, you can still see rhinoceros. Rhinoceros is not there in many countries. In South India, we still have elephants, which are actually doing work. They're carrying timber. They're still used. So we have also a lot of bird sanctuaries. So India is a very rich country because very fertile. So we have a very rich variety of flora and fauna. And because there is so much of diversity in terms of the terrain and the geography, you get all different types of animals, birds, etc.
Your Excellency, please allow me to ask you about the position of women in India. How it is nowadays?
Well, see, India was one of the first countries which had a woman prime minister. When Indira Gandhi became prime minister in 1967, the Indians accepted her. In fact, even way back in the 1930s, I think Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, she became the president of the Indian National Congress. Similarly, now for the last 25 years, many of the chief ministers of the states, like governors of the provinces, they have been women in India, and they have ruled with full authority. So you see, I would make a strong statement that traditionally the Indians have always respected women because we respect both the gods and goddesses. So women are considered to be a goddess. So this is not there in some other societies. And the traditional Indian culture is a little conservative. There is not so much mixing of the men and the women. So many women are also regarded more as sister, either sister or like a motherly figure. You know, if she's older, then she's like a mother or sister. Now we have been educating and providing more opportunities to women. In fact, I have found more women in senior positions in India, to be frank, than in some of, say, the Western countries where I have been posted. And you can see we now have a woman as the President of India. We have many women in our cabinet. Women have shown in the corporate sector in India. Some of the largest companies in India have been established by women. There is a company called Biocon, which is a leader in biopharmaceuticals, and that is established by women. So, and particularly the Indian government led by Prime Minister Modi has been focusing a lot on encouraging women. Now, I will conclude by saying that if you look at the civil services, when I joined, about 25% of the intake was women. Today, most of those women are at the senior most positions of the government. But when I look at the intake now in the diplomatic corps, almost 50% are women.
50%?
Yes, 50% are women. So you see, the Indian society is changing more and more, and we have included women now even in the armed forces. We have women who are fighter pilots, who are helicopter pilots. We've had helicopter pilots for the last 20 years. We have just permitted deployment of women on naval ships and also on submarines.
Submarines,
yes.
The army.
Yes, submarines, you know, in the Navy. Submarines, yes, it's not easy because, you know, you are underwater.
Yes.
It's very, very, you know, restricted. There is not much of space. So I think Indian women are have increasing number of opportunities.
Let me think about the family. The family. Returning back to the main role of women, which is the family. Can you tell me what distinguishes the tradition, the family traditions in India?
See, this is one of the commonalities between India and Egypt. that both societies attach a lot of value to family. So we Indians are, very close with our parents, brothers, sisters, and also the immediate relatives. In spite of urbanization and modernization, we are still, most of us, very, very close to the family, and I think that is something similar. So the family remains the bedrock of not only social stability, but I think also at an individual level, people being relatively happy, satisfied, not feeling very lonely. This is a big challenge which some of the other more advanced societies are facing. So I'm happy to say that despite modernization, family remains a cornerstone of Indian society.
Of course, I cannot have a speech or talking with Indian ambassador without talking about the impact of the Indian drama.
Bollywood.
Yes, Bollywood worldwide on everyone in any place in the world. How could you do it? And how could you stay until now? One of the main, let's see, the dramas or film aims and targets for anyone everywhere. How could you do this?
See, the popularity of Bollywood is indeed universal, and I told you I have served in China in my initial years. First 10 years I was in China, but even in China, everybody remembered Bollywood, because in the 1950s to 1970s they had seen several Indian films. Similarly, in Russia, Bollywood is extremely popular. And it's not in a historic sense, but the popularity of Bollywood has continued. So it is not that it was government policy or it was our intention. It was something which happened. There was something magical about Bollywood, that it appealed not only to people, say, from Asia, but it appealed to everybody. It appealed to people from Middle East, to Western people, Latin America. I am fascinated that in Egypt, virtually everybody has seen Bollywood films, and most of them seem to still follow Bollywood, and they are completely enthralled by Bollywood. So it is something, it gives us kind of soft power, you can say, but also I think Bollywood is enjoyable. It has various types of entertainment. It is sometimes family-based drama, sometimes it's an action thriller, sometimes it is different types of stories.
But as we know, keeping any achievement or any success is not easy, but you really were able to keep and what you achieved in the field of cinema and drama, especially Bollywood, as I'm saying.
Yes, because now you see there's a lot of the media coverage on OTT platforms, and the Indian Bollywood and film producers have adapted. They're also making TV serials and things which can be shown on channels like Netflix, Amazon, etc.
Okay. Your Excellency, the last question I would like to ask about the Indian cuisine. What can you tell us about the Indian cuisine that distinguishes we as the Egyptian, or maybe in some world, we know about the Indian spices, and we like to take from it and add to our food here or anywhere in the whole world. So what else distinguishes this mix of spices with the food in Indian cuisine?
Well, again, there is a lot of diversity in the Indian cuisine. I think mainly people are familiar with the North Indian cuisine, which has a lot of kebabs and tandoori and things like butter chicken and mutton rogan josh and the breads and the naans. But you also have different type of cuisine across the country, and in South India the cuisine is different. You have dosas and idlis, and a lot of it is based on fermented rice flour. So we do use spices, but I can tell you that there is no one formula. Each dish has a unique combination of spices to be used. And like chicken curry, you can have 6 or 7 types of chicken curries. Each requires a certain mix of spices, and if the spices are not properly mixed, the taste is not so good.